family, friends, and the keys to your home.
The time by NHT is
8 o'clock.
Come rise with sunrise. It's a mighty takeover. We're serving up some blessings in Wednesday service. Then we'll hit the books in Sunrise Book Club. We'll set sail with a Jamaican boat festival and your morning wraps with Wags. Why Not Wednesday is powered by Flow. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.
Celebrating
me for the first lead story here on CVM TV.
1 year of bold reporting.
And of course we look at solutions, but the fact is
1 year of fearless investigations.
It's a very important argument and it's a very important issue.
1 year of asking the tough questions.
16 is not enough. Is 13 enough?
Lead story with George Davis is celebrating 1 year of delivering the truth day after day. And we are just getting started.
Let's start the show.
In a world where innovation meets tradition, agriculture is evolving like never before. From the latest sustainable farming technologies to age-old practices passed down through generation, agriculture is
precious to me.
I love the animals. I don't mind getting my hands dirty. I love working.
Join us right here on CVM TV every Sunday during news at 7 as we explore the people, the science, and the breakthroughs that are shaping the way we grow, eat, and live. You don't want to miss it. This is Farming Forward.
So whether the government's planned rural school bus system, how will it work? What is the proposed efficacy and utility of the move? Can the country afford it? That's the issue we'll be discussing this evening on Lead Story Prime, especially in light of criticism from the parliamentary opposition who say the plan is ill thought out and is not designed to produce maximum effect for the rural school children who it is intended to bring relief to. We'll interrogate the relevant issues this evening on Lead Story Prime right here on CVM TV. So the Transport Minister Darrell Vaz says that a rural school bus system will be up and running in full force from September, the start of the new school year. Of course, there is a pilot project happening right now in Portland, in his parish, in his constituency in Western Portland. Of course, Eastern Portland is led by his wife, represented by his wife Anne-Marie in the parliament, and that's where he says it will all pivot from. So this rural school bus system, he says, will translate into cheap fares for these students, and it will provide certainty of transport. It will provide safety of transport, he says, and he says it's a long time in coming that rural students get a benefit from the government, given the billions that have been spent on the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, which serves the Kingston Metropolitan Transport Region, which has been spent over time from the JUTC. He says it's now time for the government to spend some money on transportation in rural Jamaica, and what better group to start with than students. So that's the issue for discussion today. We're going to interrogate how it will work and, crucially, what it will mean for the providers of private transport services, the taxi and bus operators who service these routes, currently not serviced by the JUTC or the rural school bus system. What will it mean for the bottom line for these operators? Are they being squeezed out of business by the same government who collects road license fees, various vehicle fees, and other taxes from them as transport operators? The Transport Minister, Darrell Vaz, he set his stall out for this rural school bus system when he spoke in the sectoral debate in the House of Representatives recently.
Madam Speaker, too many children have died on their way to school and from school in public passenger vehicles. Additionally, they are harassed, preyed on, endangered, and many have been subjected to lap up in buses or be left on the road while seeking transportation to and from schools. This government, under the leadership of Dr. Andrew Michael Honis, will be rolling out phase 2 of the dedicated rural school bus system to minimize the misery index of our rural students and parents and enhance their safety during daily commute. The continued rollout is scheduled for the start of the 25 September school year and will see dedicated school buses being provided to approximately 258 of the 850 rural schools, which is just about 30% of the rural population. A drop in the bucket, Mr. Speaker, but we are on a mission. I want to pause here to say that without the collaboration and joined up government approach of the Ministry of Education, starting with the Minister of Education, the Permanent Secretary, and the Director of Safety, Richard Troop, this would not be possible. They have given us the data and they are working with us assiduously to make this a reality. So phase 1 will be 60 buses deployed in September 25 and the other 40 by January school morning 2026. But you know, everybody talk and say, boy, announcements are great and grander. Everybody in Jamaica and everybody in this house know that I don't do that. If I tell you something will happen, it's on train. And I can tell you that up to today, before I left to come to Parliament, we were in discussions with PPC to amend the submission, and we are hoping that we will get the go-ahead to be able to go to Cabinet as early as Monday, to be able to get the buses here, to be able to start to do what needs to be done to them, so that they will be ready for September morning. It's not about buying the buses. That's the easy part. It's about making sure they are refurbished, retrofitted, and they are outfitted with the technology. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to make it abundantly clear. The government is not competing with rural taxi operators. We are making it easier, safe, and more secure for our students to be transported. This well-being is no competition, Mr. Speaker. We must simply safeguard our future. The buses provided will be only for students. They will not carry other passengers. Therefore, it is not a threat to the economic livelihood of transport operators. There is more than enough why the kids can't get a bus a transport in the morning. But this is the most important part, Mr. Speaker, for me. And that is the savings. The savings, Madam Speaker, will be subsidized, Mr. Speaker. And currently, the JUTC has a subsidized student fare, which is between $30 and $50 for students, depending on the trip. This is going to be extended to rural Jamaica, which means that the current fare for each student in rural Jamaica, depending on the distance, is between $150 and $300 Jamaican dollars per student per trip. So that will be $300 to $600 per day per student. And we all know that most rural families have more than one child. In some cases, I have the experience of parents coming to me to seek assistance because if not, they have to decide which one of the children look the brightest and invest the money in that, and the rest of them stay home. I see you looking at me, leader, but it's a fact. You may not know it, I'm telling you. And it happens all across. So in this new dispensation, the fare for a round trip per student will be between 60 Jamaican dollars and $100 per day. You just imagine what that can do in terms of allowing more students to go to school to get the opportunity to get an education. what is going to be even more is that is $6,000. Sorry, $3,000 per week in savings. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, that is an 83% reduction. And no politician and no member of parliament and no Jamaican should ever badmine a system that can do this for rural families. So I am calling and making an appeal to leave the politics out of the picnic and business, especially with the election on the 9th. It is not worth it. Let us work together on this one. So therefore, Madam Speaker, for the school year, the savings can be $60,000 per term by using the rural school bus children. For the school year, that is $180,000 a year. And that gives us 180,000 reasons to ensure, despite whatever people will say about the buses, we will not allow the negativity and pessimism to cause the school bus system to be delayed. And I'm making a call to all of my colleagues here. When you hear it from misguided people, deal with it right away. When you hear them talk about the age of the bus, the mileage of the bus broke down when it not broke down, yeah? That is simply evil and bad mind. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, sorry, I won't advise the parents on how to spend the savings that will come from the rural school bus system. Whether it is to buy a Pro Box or saving for some other aspiration. What is undoubtable is that we are making a tangible impact on the cost of living for rural families across Jamaica that will allow more children to go to school in a safer, more economic way. They deserve it, Mr. Speaker. I don't know how some of them do it, coming from where they are coming from and the distance. So let us agree to accept. The last thing I will say on that is that the regional offices of the Ministry of Education are responsible for routing and the assignment of the buses. I am calling on every member of parliament, because it will affect every parish, to have your own discussions, give your own concerns and your own advice as to what you think is best, to make sure that at the end of the day, we have the input from the Ministry of Education, the JUTC, and of course, the representatives at the end of the day.
Darrell Vaz there, he's the Minister of Transport. Much more after this break.
It took us 9 years to get to this point. We have been planning this to put in zones of special operation, deployment of the states of public emergency. Whilst that was happening, we're investing in the JDF, maximizing the equipment and capability and training. And then we started to invest in the police, changing their vehicles, changing their telecommunications, changing their training and doctrine and leadership, investing in their investigative capabilities and intelligence gathering. JCF today is not the same as the JCF 10 years ago. So those criminals who believe that they are operating in the same space are mistaken. And it is important that I warn them, because when they get what is coming to them, and there are those who will cry out in sympathy for them, the society will know that I went to great lengths publicly to warn them, and I would encourage you to take my words seriously.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
So I'm sure you took her to a doctor, and what did he say?
He said that she had a hole in her heart. She's a blue baby.
I thought I would find my papa, but I didn't. I found Uncle Jungly instead.
I will divorce her. It's what you want.
Ganga.
Brought to you by
Hyundai or Hyundai.
So what value is a plan that sounds like it is intended to solve some major problems, especially problems that have been pervading over time, and yet that plan isn't well thought out? I'll tell you, no value. A plan, notwithstanding the fact that it proposes to solve a long-standing issue, must be very well thought out and must be able to stand up to the scrutiny of interrogation by those who not necessarily want to bore holes into the plan, but just want to see if the plan is resilient. That's what we intend to do in this discussion, and we have, well, I have with me Richard Troop. He's the Director of Safety and Security in the Ministry of Education and Youth, and Edgerton Newman needs no introduction. Well, neither gentleman needs any introduction. Edgerton Newman is the man leading TODS, that's the Transport Operators Developers Sustainable Services. Merciful Father, TODS. Yes, it is a mouthful. But before I go into the discussion, though, gentlemen, I think it's proper, given the fact that you are here representing Transport Operators Edgerton, from the policy side, Richard is here, to hear what the taxi operators, or at least some of them in Portland, have had to say post the introduction of that school bus brought in under phase 1 by the VASs in Portland. Let's roll that tape.
This bus system, I don't affect us. It don't affect me, I don't know about nobody else. You understand me? I still eat my food and everything all right with me. I have no problem with the bus. Bus good for the youth.
I really hope they utilize the service, because I really want them to travel safely, and I'm not really happy with how they travel sometimes. So yeah, I just hope them support the system when it comes.
I don't have a problem with the school bus coming around. I don't have no problem. What I have a problem is the robot.
Father, I see, Andrew wants to do a very good thing for the school children, them educational wise. Because sometimes them in this coaster, then get caught up with other different things, and by them to reach school, you understand, a different thing in their head, you understand. But when them see the school bus, they know it's a school bus that, and if you keep focused on their education.
Yeah, man, the school bus now treat you good, man, because here, you know, it's a vase, you don't know a Portland they come from, right? And after them constituency, me a taxi man like everybody else. See? We don't really carry school as most of the time still, but at them we make the money. And the school bus them, well, I want school bus there, and if the rest of them not come, I treat you so. Well, when the rest of them come, yeah? Because we don't have no money none at all. If you look what up on the standing there right now, taxi more than people.
Interesting take at the end there. That last gentleman going against the grain of the sentiment expressed by those before him, who said, identified themselves as transport operators and were interviewed because they appeared to be transport operators, saying that the bus was of no hindrance, the bus was welcomed, and they were happy that these students were being able to be transported to school in a safe and secure manner. That last gentleman saying that the taxi operators were feeling the pinch from the presence of just one bus, and he was dreading the thought of even more buses coming into the space. Perfect setup, I think. Richard, this rural school bus system, first of all, how many buses are we talking about that will be active by September, and what is the intention of this program?
So by September, the government of Jamaica will procure and deploy 60 buses. The remaining 40 will be procured, retrofitted, and deployed in January. So for the 25-26 fiscal year, 100 buses will be procured and deployed. As a matter of fact, we have been having conversation between our two ministries. 110 buses will be deployed because the intention is 10 will be procured as a backup in case there's any challenges with any of the buses that would have been deployed. You talk about a plan. It's a program that we have been giving serious consideration to. We have identified already the 100 schools across 13 parishes that will be utilized as a bus bay for the units. We have identified, looking at the corridors that will be serviced, the size buses that will be required for those spaces. The buses will be restricted to major corridors, 35-seater, 54-seater, 72-seater units. The buses will be equipped with the technology to ensure that, one, the drivers are operating in the expected standard. that the students are being monitored. They are able to be monitored, not just by JUTC, the schools that will be impacted, or the parents, but it is all of these stakeholders that will have a vested interest in the safety of our nation's children. The 100 buses deployed to 100 schools will be servicing 258 schools across 13 parishes. Each parish, each of the 13 parishes will benefit from a deployment of 7 units, that is 91, and the remaining 9 will be procured specifically for the disability community, special needs institution. We want to make sure the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Science, Energy, Telecommunication and Technology is very committed to ensure that we are not even providing the service for the quote-unquote able-bodied children only, but children that will require this level of support from the disability community will also benefit. Those buses will be specially retrofitted because not only will the door that is on the right side will be changed to the left side, but for the special needs buses, they will be retrofitted with the ramp to facilitate, absolutely.
And storage of the wheelchair when it's folded.
Absolutely. So we see this as a very important legacy project for Jamaica and a very important legacy project for our nation's children.
First up, so you referenced 13, we have 14 parishes, but I'm imagining that Kingston won't need this thing because Kingston is so tiny.
A few units will be deployed along Hope Road, largely to impact the special needs community in Papine.
So Listamere Gilby.
Absolutely. But also to service the cluster of schools along the Hope Road area.
Because there are several.
Absolutely.
So the Mona children, the JC boys, which other school we have up there? Mona, Papine,
we have schools the Queens, the Merle Grove, all of those schools will be impacted. The important thing about this project too, we know children in rural Jamaica travel far distances to go to school than in Kingston.
For sure.
We know that the cost for transportation for our nation's children is extremely high in rural communities than urban setting. It is only fair that we provide this level of support to our children because we know that oftentimes parents have to make a choice in terms of which child will benefit from school today
the minister did
because
say
of
that.
the cost of education.
The minister did say that. And one of the things that ought to be mentioned early is that no government in any part of the world operates a public transport system at a profit.
Absolutely.
A public transport system in any country is a loss-making endeavor, which we all accept as something that governments have to do for the population. They provide public transport at a loss. I remember being in Washington, D.C. during COVID when the place was locked down and the metro was still running and people were being asked to ride for free. So the buses will be running, and if one person is there, it's carrying the one person on schedule just the same, and money was being spent to buy gas, pay a driver for one person, but it had to be done because it's what countries do. So I digress. But here's the thing now, Richard. So many things to pick through. You say monitoring and surveillance. Is it that each bus will be outfitted in such a manner that if the Director of Safety and Security at the Ministry of Education and Youth, who happens to be you, wants to see what's happening on a particular bus somewhere, can you access that feed to look into the bus real time? Can somebody else do it? Is that the kind of surveillance that we are on?
Absolutely. Not only as the Director of Safety and Security, but the school that the bus would be assigned to will be able to do that too. JUTC is critical to this program because the drivers will be employed by JUTC. The drivers will be trained by JUTC. JUTC, in partnership with the Jamaica Constabulary Force, will be engaged in a very rigorous screening process for the drivers to be engaged. And so JUTC too will have access. As a matter of fact, with the project in Portland, we are able to determine what time the bus left the loading bay, the time it would have taken along the route to reach to Port Antonio High, Port Antonio High and Titchfield. We had a conversation about, because we want to make sure too that this program is not legitimizing lateness. We have to ensure that the bus leaves the loading bay at a particular time to facilitate the students getting to school on time.
Yes.
It was the provider of this technological service that we were able to have a conversation with to say, look here, man, what is the cause of the problem? What is it that we need to do in order to ensure that all the children that utilize the service will arrive to school on time? Technology is important. It's important to track the ridership. It is important to track the safety of our children. It is also important to minimize loitering.
Yes.
Because I tell you this, many times parents leave home with the intention that the child would get ready because of the nature of the work, that they'll get ready for school. Lunch is provided, bus fare is provided, and sometimes the children don't go to school. And then they turn up when they know mommy or daddy come back home.
Yes.
But this program will allow a parent, because a special app will be developed for this purpose, where a parent will be able to track his or her child boarding the bus, exiting the bus. And so that will be used as reference data to determine where their child is at any one time.
So just to get you clear before we go to the break, and Edgerton, fret not, your time is coming.
Yes.
Each of the buses that are coming for September to start with, the 60 that are coming for September, that number, that group of 60 will be outfitted with the surveillance,
the technology,
for you to be able to see on the bus.
Absolutely.
And for the bus, the bus is assigned to track the movement of the bus. Wait, why is this bus not here yet? Where's that bus? Punch up there. Oh, the bus is moving along. That will be for each of those buses come September. And then January, when the next 40 come, they'll be subject to the same technological treatment.
That is what is happening now to the Portland model.
Yes.
That's why the Portland model is so important.
Yes.
It is a pilot that we are looking at to determine how we upscale and what are the variables or issues that we need to bear in mind as we plan to upscale for September and January.
All right. So it's time to take the break. I'll say this. You've heard Richard Troop say here, for the record, each of the school buses in the rural school bus system will be outfitted with the relevant tracking and surveillance technology to be able to know where the bus is at all times. And he says to accompany that will be an application that allows parents or guardians to be able to see if did John Tom take the bus as he was expected to? Did Sue Ellen take the bus as she was expected to? That is coming because they're saying that they're integrating the communications technology so that those who have charge of children, school, government, and parents and guardians are able to track the movement of their children. It sounds good. Let's take the break and come right back. We'll ask Edgerton Newman, why are the taximen then fearing the worst if this is going to come to assist children to be safer on the roads to get to school on time?
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Open a deposit account in the JN Bank Savings Streams promotion and save monthly for a chance to win an all-expenses paid trip to Peru. Enter now. The time by JN Bank Savings Streams promotion is
8:30.
Hey everybody, I'm Yendi, and this is Odyssey with Yendi. In this space, we connect with some of your favorite people as they share their journeys. Here we have some unfiltered conversations as we deep dive into their inspirations, motivations, and experiences to inspire our own life journey.
Getting details about the rural school bus system from Richard Troop, he's the Director of Safety and Security in the Ministry of Education. You'd have already heard from the Minister of Transport, Daryl Vaz, talking about the financing around it and the cost savings that is expected to redound to parents of the children, and how a round trip will cost as little as $60 and as much as $100 when the rural school bus system comes into effect in full swing. There's a pilot underway now serving parts of Portland, or serving the parish of Portland, and he says that's phase 1. Phase 2 will happen September morning when the new school year starts. 60 will be added to the program ahead of the arrival of 40 more, and these will be retrofitted for the purposes intended to handle the terrain, door move from the side of the road, because you know that the USA, they drive on the wrong side of the road. We drive on the right side of the road, so the doors will be moved and all that. One thing before Edgerton Newman comes in, Richard, which is important.
Yes.
The buses that are coming, are these new buses, one? And if they are not new, how much mileage is on the clock of the average bus coming to be a part of this Jamaican rural school bus system?
Well, unfortunately, George, those technical issues I don't know. I know these are not new buses. These are used vehicles. But you know, used vehicle in Jamaica versus used vehicle in the United States or other countries are different thing. And so these units that are being procured will have significant life remaining to be on our nation's road. Remember that these buses are not intended to be running throughout the day.
Yes.
They do 2 trips in the morning, 2 trips in the afternoon. Minister Vaz also indicated that the buses is exclusively for school children. We are also encouraging our teachers to utilize the vehicles as a way to manage behavior.
Yes.
That is one of the concerns we have.
Very crucial, yes.
Because we know that our students at times can be very indisciplined. We know that oftentimes our students contribute to the destruction of the vehicles.
Yes.
Private operators have been telling us that, and we know that.
Yes.
And I mean, before this particular initiative, we had excellent relationship with private operators because they were tasked to work with our schools to carry children on the PAD program. We have never been able, George, since 2017 when we started that program, to engage the vehicles to take 7,500 children across the island. We have never been. So clearly there is a issue with fleet.
Yes.
And so we see these additional buses, these vehicles providing additional support to the system. These 100 buses cannot and will not take all of our nation's children. It's a phased basis. But we're encouraging our children to, one, come out on time because they're going to be running on schedule. Be disciplined on the vehicle.
Yes.
And ensure that you are not destroying the seats, marking, defacing in any way. The buses belong to our children.
And I'm certain that individual principals will come up with a system to say, well, listen, we've had 5 reports about you acting disorderly on the bus. You are hereby suspended from the bus until further notice. You'd undergo a period of counseling to modify your behavior before you can resume. Edgerton Newman, coming to you now. You've heard some of your colleagues out in Portland, maybe some of them even your very own members. I know you know every taximan and woman in Jamaica. Yeah? They say, the overwhelming majority of those we interviewed, that, listen, we welcome this because it's not affecting our bag. One man said, cheddar on low because the one school bus in Portland, the one nigga school bus, he says, is taking away customers from him. What's your position on this rural school bus system?
First of all, George, I want to laud the initiative. We welcome it because we believe that the time has come for us to have our students travel in a manner that is representing their institution and representing the country. We heard of too many stories, and we in the system have seen too many play out of indiscipline in the public transport sector that you, George, will want to blame us as conductors and drivers. So we are playing the loud music. When we are warned, if we don't play it, what will happen to us? So we are happy for a school bus system that can garner that sort of discipline with the student between home and the school plant. Yes, you're going to find there are some changes in income for the private sector, private transport sector, because understand, just over 90% of the public transport sector are owned by private persons who invest millions of dollars. So if you take away that last Vox Pop person, he might be truthful in saying that he used to carry 4 students in six trips, 4 students, but because of the bus on that route now, he might only carry 2 because the bus can't carry all the students. Right. So we have to look at what he's saying. But from a holistic perspective, I think the school bus must be welcomed by all of us as citizens. Let me tell you something.
Yes.
We didn't start yesterday. We didn't start this, Richard, yesterday.
That's right.
We started in 2013 under Mike Henry for Clarendon.
Yes.
And I personally go down to Maple and observe them. They didn't want to take the school bus. The students said, no, we're not take it. No music, no inside here. I said to Richard earlier on that, listen, if the school plant management does not instill the importance of using the school bus, then I will give it 6 months to crash. If Richard and his team does not manage the school bus system, I'm going to give it 6 months to crash.
Yeah, I was going to go there. But just before, you're very advanced in your thinking, Edgerton. But stick with me a little bit. Have you and Todd's calculated the likely revenue loss on certain key routes? Because if the distribution of the buses is as Richard says, and you start with 100, so you say, okay, you take 100 into the system. Have you done any calculations yet to see what the fallout will be given the trip rotations that your members used to do and the fact that you have 2 peak hours, peak hour in the morning, peak hour in the evening? Of course, you're on the road in between. Yeah, the buses can't do that. They won't do that. So how have you looked at those numbers and what are they telling you about what your members are likely to lose out on?
You know, from a rough
calculation,
rough calculation, we're going to lose just under 25% of our resources.
25%?
Under 25%.
With 100 buses?
Yes. With the buses, matter of fact, with the present system in Portland right now, we're losing. We haven't put a percentage, but when the 100 buses come in, we're going to lose about 23-24%. But we are prepared for that. Because you would understand when you're going to a bus you just bought for $13 million. $13 million.
A used bus?
A used bus.
Yes, because I heard a lady in a town hall meeting saying that the other day.
Within a week, you look at those seats because of the kind of students.
Tattered, yeah.
Right? So when you put that into consideration, then you want to welcome the school bus. And you can charge the right price for it. When you take I'm a Manchester man, Richard, you know that. And when you have to take students from Christian to Spaldings, you can't come on 4, maximum 5. If you should charge the student price, you can't buy the gas.
Yes.
And therefore, you really want to say, no student, you're wrong, it's illegal.
Yes.
But you have to survive, to pay the boss, the owner for the vehicle, to pay yourself, to fuel the car. You sometimes have to really tough hard say, no school.
All right, you mentioned a point I want to take you up on because I'm wondering if you say your members are looking at a rough calculation, 23-25% loss from the introduction of 100 buses by January next year, because 60 September, 40 more January, 100, right? If 25% is what you're looking at as the fallout, and you say, as things stand now, you're losing out in Portland, are your members disciplined enough, Edgerton, to hold the discipline and resist the temptation to reduce the fares for students to travel with them to make it even more attractive for them to take you rather than go with the bus?
Well, we can't reduce the fares anymore. We're supposed to charge half the fares of an adult for a student. Now, if it is, let's say it's $400 from Buff Bay to Portland, you cannot charge a student $200, which is impossible. I'm not too sure of the fare now, but I'm just using that. So if it's 50% of the fare, we have to charge the 50%. That student would want us to charge $50, as in Kingston, right? We can't do that. It's impossible. So we have to charge half the fare of the adult for the student.
But you know how business goes, and I'm staying with the point because you know how business works. in an event where you find that you have tremendous competition, it's just like the restaurants in Kingston. Now, there are so many restaurants, cook shops, all kind of things, selling lunch, breakfast, the like. And because there are so many, the competition is so strong, everybody's a lunch special, everybody's a deal on something, everybody's trying to be competitive and survive on price. I'm putting it to you again. Are members disciplined enough to say, listen, even if you can't, you're not going to drop the price by 50%. But are you envisaging a future where those fares will be decreased to make the taxis more attractive? Even though the taxi fare is not where the bus fare is, because taxis can't charge $60 or $100 for any fare to anywhere. Yes. But just to drop it to say, listen, the fare is cheaper, why you bother go up on the bus for? Come with us, let me carry you quick and fast.
You know, George, I advise a number of persons that I'm going to be on tonight. My operators, and they are watching right now. Let me tell you something. I would never encourage any private sector operators to reduce their fares at this time. I would encourage the minister, good friend, to look at fuel, to look at some sort of support. I would encourage Richard to look at training for the transport sector. I think the students want to travel in style. And I think if you can help us in the area of training and development, the Prime Minister announced a major training program for us over 3 years now. We don't see the light of day for that. So there are things that can be done for the sector to allow us to carry students in a very nice way. And we are not looking at those things. Right? I have to go begging, hand out for fuel, for the taxi men.
So you just touched something very important, because you're saying that even where you wouldn't encourage or endorse competition with the school buses on price, because you say that would be madness because of the economics involved, and you wouldn't support unethical behavior, and that would be unethical. You're saying that your members, though, would still want something to be done in light of this proposed influx of buses on these routes. Isn't that what you're saying?
Absolutely. That is exactly what I'm saying.
If you don't, so what will happen then, Edgerton, if you are not getting the incentive in the form that you like it? Will that not then spur members to extract for themselves some other advantage in another way?
Listen to me, George. We cannot increase our fares. And you see the problem we have with the media when we put on a $10 from Kingston to Spanish Town, right? So why would we want to decrease the fares? Because there's a competition out there, we want to make some money. I don't think we should decrease the fares. I think we should allow the school bus to operate, and then we say to government, listen now, we are carrying adults only. Can you give them 16%, sir? We want the 16% because now we lost the student. And we are losing now over close to 25%. Could you give me 16% to make up for things that I can retrofit my vehicle and things like that? Give us some loans to put our vehicles in good condition.
And I'm going to have to take the break, Richard. But the last thing for you is that you're saying that based on how you see it, the school buses and the private taxi operators can coexist.
We can coexist.
With the right conditions.
With the right conditions.
Existing.
Yeah, sure.
I hear you on that. More from Edgerton Newman and certainly Richard Troop after this break. This is Lead Story Prime. We're talking rural school bus system. It's coming. It's actually here already in Portland.
Millions of people are attacked by harmful mouth bacteria. The root cause of bad breath, gum problems, cavities, plaque, and tartar. That's why Colgate combined the best science and technology in Colgate Total. Unlike others, its superior formula fights bacteria and creates a powerful protective barrier for up to 24 hours to prevent them from coming back. Take control of your oral health with Colgate Total.
Protecting Jamaica's borders is a key priority for the Jamaica Customs Agency. The JCA will remain vigilant and resolute in effectively fulfilling this mandate. The time brought to you by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
8:45.
It took us 9 years to get to this point. We have been planning this to put in zones of special operation, deployment of the states of public emergency. Whilst that was happening, we're investing in the JDF, maximizing the equipment and capability and training. And then we started to invest in the police, changing their vehicles, changing their telecommunications, changing their training and doctrine and leadership, investing in their investigative capabilities and intelligence gathering. JCF today is not the same as the JCF 10 years ago. So those criminals who believe that they are operating in the same space are mistaken. And it is important that I warn them, because when they get what is coming to them, and there are those who will cry out in sympathy for them, the society will know that I went to great lengths publicly to warn them, and I would encourage you to take my words seriously.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Well, I can tell you that as a high schooler in Spanish Town and on Old Harbour Road, I met hell going to school on a regular morning. I had to be out at the entrance to my housing scheme, the main road, by no later than 5:20 a.m. every morning to catch a bus, a Tata bus called I Am a Jesus Man. I'll never forget that bus. That man saved my school career and my school life, because the private operator, well, he's a private operator, but most of them, they said no schoolers. And children who went to high school in the 1990s, I was in high school as recently as 1999. I'm not so old, gentlemen, yeah? We knew the refrain from the coaster buses, no schoolers, the taxis, no schoolers, and so it was hell. And I am part of an army of Jamaicans who went to school, and by the time we got to school, our brains were frazzled, given that the journey to school was so tumultuous, so strife-riven. And to hear now that students in rural Jamaica will be able to leave their district to walk out and catch a dedicated school bus to where they are going, it's a significant relief to us, and I'm far removed from high school. In fact, I remember what we call the now JUTC buses, the articulated ones, the ones that had the bend in the middle. When those first came and started to being used in Jamaica, they were used as school buses. So I would leave from outside Spanish Town into Spanish Town to take one of those into Halfway Tree when I was a sixth former. So those buses were originally school buses, and the Woolmerians, the Holy Childhood, the Andrews girls, the Immaculate girls, the Woolmerians, the Arden girls, all of them would pack up the George's boys, KC, JC. And it gave you a sense of comfort. It was such a difference to be able to go on a bus, students only, children only, and know that you would not turn up to the step and someone would close the door in your face and tell you, no schoolers. That is about to change. At least that's what the government is intending to do broad scale by September this year. Richard Troop, you wanted to make an intervention. Yes. Make that intervention before I put the other question to you.
So, Edgerton, I want to make the point that the buses, the units, will be on these major corridors during the peak time. It is during the peak time in the morning and the afternoons that children oftentimes are disenfranchised, because the private operators want to concentrate on the adult passengers.
The big fear.
For the same reason, you know, to try to make things happen for them. That's one. So it is actually alleviating a major problem during the peak hours, right? Number two, remember these units, again, will be on major corridors. We are still relying on the partnership with our private operators to be taking children from the deep rural parishes to the major corridors. It is going to require the children coming to these points where they're going to be picked up by the bus on time. So it is a partnership. The third thing I'd like to make, the point, is if one of the things that I would want to see happen differently moving forward with the inclusion of these 100 units being deployed is a recognition that the private operators too will also strive for a particular standard.
Yes.
That because part of our challenge as a ministry of education, skills, youth and information is the fact that too often we see these small buses that has a capacity for X carrying X square and
10X,
and 3
10X,
times.
10X, Richard.
And then we
10X,
talk
yes.
about the safety.
Yes.
It cannot be that we're looking at profit margin against the safety of our nation's children. And I'm happy for the points raised by many of the operators in your earlier clip.
Yes.
Because they are parents too.
Yes.
They are very concerned about their own children. And so we welcome this kind of enthusiasm by the operators themselves.
Yes, and just to expand on the points you made earlier, Richard, imagine, for those of you who are corporate area dwellers, imagine a child who lives in, say, Ellison Flats, who has to go to Spanish Town. Clearly, the school bus is not going to go down into Ellison Flats for that child, but that child has to take a taxi to Papine.
That is right.
To board a bus and then make the trek. So that's what he means by the private transport operators still getting in on the action, because in the bowels of these communities where the children exist, you have to take them from there to the main pickup points where they can then take the school bus. So it's a continuum, it's a chain, and the private operators come in and a part of it.
And that is true.
Yes.
Let me hop in here. That's a fact. But we must understand, the math says we're going to lose.
Yes.
Right? No, my major concern, is taking the taxi from the valley in Buff Bay to Buff Bay Square to get the school bus. That child, school started at 9, and I use the figure 9, in Port Antonio. She's leaving, or he's leaving his or her house at 10 minutes to 9. And what you'll find is 100 persons in Buff Bays waiting on public transportation.
Yes, yes.
That they're going to reach school late.
But that's what Richard said early, because he said that with this bus running on schedule now, you know, and the parent knows that, listen, this child can't leave here 10 minutes to 9 to get to school. It's impossible because the bus leaves at 8:20.
We always have bus schedule, the large buses.
Yes.
When I was a boy.
Yes.
You too, right?
Yes. Me too. Me too.
Buses, we know the bus have a schedule. The bus is supposed to leave on time.
Yes.
But the commuters never leave to get the bus on time.
And it's an excellent point you raised.
So the school bus will also miss
It's
students.
an excellent point, because I was going to go there with Richard, because I'm saying, Richard, listen, I can go on my phone now and punch in for you any JUTC route at random, and it tells you, oh, this bus leaves here at that time, or leaves that. It doesn't hold. It does not hold. What will guarantee that the school buses run on time, especially because the punctuality of the buses is vital to the operation of the overall system and its success?
Yes. Because of the technology that will be utilized on these vehicles, we are able to track movement time. I think it is a commitment to that capacity to track and monitor that is going to make a difference. I think the fact that the parents will have access to an app to track their own children, because remember, too, George, part of it is a major role for parents in this.
Yes.
Our Minister Vaz referenced savings for parents, but parents might not realize that savings if the children are not committed to wake up on time, to ride on the bus, to benefit from the savings. So it's a collective effort. We all have a responsibility. At the end of the day, 100 units being deployed will not make a difference if the children do not utilize the service provided to them. What I'm encouraged by is what I am seeing in Portland. And I know Portland is not necessarily, you can't use it for all of the 13 parishes, but it is still a good signal. That unit leaves Buff Bay full every single day.
On time?
Well, in the first couple of days, it wasn't on time. And again, we have made provision for that, George. How have we made provision for that? The first month of the Portland program, children are allowed to ride without paying the fare. That is to allow us to study what happens on the ground and to tweak. It is that initiative that is allowing us to really understand the students, to know where the major pickup points are along the corridor. And so I would have said to you, because the principal complaint is, Mr. Troop, look here, man. We can't have this program and legitimizing children coming late. Yes? And so if the unit is going to contribute to lateness, doesn't make sense
now.
And so what we had to do was to change the time for a little bit earlier so that the children from the different schools that are served by that unit will be able to reach on time. That is the kind of conversation that is necessary. That is the kind of open discussion that is necessary to inform and to tweak the system.
Yes.
And that's why we're happy for the Portland model.
Yeah, all right. Gentlemen, we're out of time. I didn't realize that. I thought I had more time left. Gentlemen, last word to you. Are you saying then that yes, coexistence is possible, but at the same time, your members are going to need not necessarily an incentive, but some sweetener from the government to mitigate the losses that you will undoubtedly suffer?
3 types of sweetener, quickly. Training and development.
Yes.
For those who come from the valley, down to Buff Bay Square.
That is right.
We need some sort of incentive to retrofit our vehicles. A lot of roads have been fixed now, but the right road from the valley come down, no touch. So we need some help to retrofit our vehicles, to put in new parts. And of course, most of all, we need that little pittance that the government have for us to make up for the little loss.
The fare increase.
The fare increase. We need those 3 things right now. There are many other things that we could ask for, but those 3 are very, very important to us.
Hear you on that. Gentlemen, thank you for your time this evening. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you, man.
All right, so a rural school bus system is on the way, and September, 60 will be added to the... We don't have a fleet now, but 60 will come to make a fleet. And then Richard Troop says by January in 2026, 40 more will come. And the surveillance aspect and the security aspect are what excite me, and the fact that the schools will have a role to play, even though the bus will be provided by the JUTC, manned by JUTC staff, and the central base where they will leave from will be known and published so the public can know, and parents will be able to plan. Parental input is going to be crucial to the success of this thing. Without that, it's going to fail, it's going to collapse. All right? That's the story prime. I make way for the Rastaman, Orville Higgins, talking some sport.
Celebrating
me for the first lead story here on CVM TV.
1 year of bold reporting.
And of course we look at solutions, but the fact is
1 year of fearless investigations.
It's a very important argument and it's a very important issue.
1 year of asking the tough questions.
16 is not enough. Is 13 enough?
Lead Story with George Davis is celebrating 1 year of delivering the truth day after day. And we are just getting started.
Let's start the show.
Come rise with sunrise. It's a mighty takeover. We're serving up some blessings in Wednesday service. Then we'll hit the books in Sunrise Book Club. We'll set sail with a Jamaican boat festival and your morning wraps with Wags. Why Not Wednesday is powered by Flow. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.